Welcome, everyone, to Life Beyond 6 Feet. I'm Damien from RKB Paranormal, and this is going to be a bonus episode to kind of wrap up season two. We just had the season finale drop, but this is going to be a bonus episode. So we actually got an extra episode here for season two. Joining me this week is paranormal investigator Richelle G. Richelle, welcome to Life Beyond 6 Feet.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me. I'm wicked excited to be here.
Of course. And then I came across you because you sent a message on Facebook to my team, RKB Paranormal, asking permission to use probably our most well-known video, and we'll get into all that here in a little bit. But that's how I ran across you, and I thought it'd be cool to have you on the show. So,
Yeah, I'm so happy to be. You asked me to be on the show. I was like, heck yeah, let's go. I
oh,
couldn't like lots of people I'm sure that have been through that place and have seen that video, which we'll get into. I was just dumbfounded at the story got even better. Like they left out the best part. But yes,
so
I wanted to see if possibly I could use that evidence because while I received my own awesome experiences there. Man, nothing tops that, man. That is just, oh
and
boy.
see, and you got lucky because we don't get that many messages on Facebook, so I don't check it that often. But just I think I got it by accident. I just happened to accidentally swap over from my personal page to that page and was like, oh, hey, there's a message on here. So,
Yeah, it wasn't very long at all, actually. You got right back to me pretty much and was like, yeah, of course. I'm like, score. Heck yeah.
all right, well, we're just going to go ahead and just dive right into this thing, Rochelle. So, what kind of set you out onto your paranormal journey?
Oh boy, originally you mean? Oh dang. Well, originally, way back in the day when I was little, what started me out, I think, was my late father and I would we were always doing something, always camping, fishing, whatever, and we had this one spot actually where I grew up in Florida. It's in Pasco County. It's a public park. You can camp there, and they had just recently found a homestead that was buried deep in the woods
Hmm.
from the original family. So the homestead included, of course, the home site, which was super old from the 1800s, some old cattle fencing, an old well, and of course, graves. So we would take old disposable cameras and we'd walk down the trail at night, which you were allowed to do if you camped there, and just try and capture. He was probably just amusing me. I don't know. But one night in particular, the park was extremely empty. In fact, we were the only people there in the part we were camping at. We were the only people there. I was definitely the only child there. I was about 7 or 8. And we walked down the trail. I felt like it was super late. It was probably only about 8 o'clock at night. And had our cameras, walked down the trail to this little thing, stood right in front of the grave sites, which was sort of set up like a cul-de-sac, like one way in, one way out.
Hmm.
And I'm looking across the way there, and there's two little kids like hanging on the fence. And
Oh,
I'm
shit.
like, yeah, I'm like, Dad, like, what the hell? You told me I was the only kid here, before you get old and awkward, you want to play with kids.
Right.
And he's like, no, you absolutely are the only kid here. And we were looking at each other saying that, and we looked back at him, and we literally watched them get down off the fence and disappear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it. So that for me definitely I couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough after that, even at that young age. I know a lot of people start off this journey with gifts and living in haunted houses, even, or just whatever the case may be. It was this one event that kicked it off, and I can't get enough even now.
I understand that. So aside from that one experience as a young child, was there any more personal experiences growing up that just got you more intrigued, or did you just kind of do like a lot of research?
A little bit of both. So after I started paying attention and realizing that there's definitely a much now this is again I'm dating myself. I was born in 85. So we're talking about like the best time for like TV, right? So we had
Hmm.
X-Files, we had Unsolved Mysteries,
Right, right.
we had, even Rescue 911. I don't know if you remember that one. That was
Oh,
sort of touched
yeah,
on it a little bit.
right,
So, growing up as a especially a young, impressionable child, if you were allowed to watch the stuff, which I usually wasn't, but I would consume it, in the closet.
right.
Um, it definitely made you realize that it's not, your world isn't as small as you feel like it is sometimes. So, um, again, it was once I started paying attention to that aspect of it, and my grandmother at the time, my father's mother, um, noticed that I would start picking up these books and started reading. And she's like, our family, nobody will talk about it, but our family comes from a long line of people with gifts,
Oh
and
wow.
you might be gifted. I don't think that I am, in the sense of, if I'm on a normal investigation, I can't legit like see or speak to,
Right.
but I do feel and see in energies.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't think I got the full basket of gifts, but I definitely think I ran off with a little piece of it. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it was just a firestorm of research and trying to just learn as much as I can and trying to just figure out like what exactly is going on.
Right. So I'm kind of the same way. I don't feel like I really have any gifts. I'm more or less I can kind of get a sense about some stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
my wife, she's been told she's like, she's a little bit of a medium, she's a little bit of clairvoyant, and she always gets these senses before we even really get to the building. And she's like, I think it's going to be a good night. I have that feeling,
Yeah.
and and I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could just get those feelings, but so now. Obviously, you're an investigator, so do you have an actual team that you go out with, or do you mostly do solos? Do you like to collaborate a lot with other investigators? Like how do you go out investigating?
Up until recently, I have been on my own, and I sort of did that on purpose, mainly because I don't, how can I say this without sounding like a jerk? I don't agree with the way a lot of people do things, and it's
Hmm.
not like, everybody's got their own style, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Right.
But there's like, I figured out pretty early on that there's this whole other genre of investigation style. It's not like, you bring flowers and you sit in a circle. I'm not talking about that either. I'm just talking about like maybe not going in with the same questions of like, yo, bro, how did you die?
Hmm.
Um, I think they get tired of talking about that. And honestly, I got my start doing the no name. Like I would go into abandoned places, abandoned buildings, waterfalls with terrible stories, like lovers' lanes where people were murdered. Like that's where I would start, and I would find out that there's actually a lot of spirits there that were dying to talk, pun intended, but
Right.
that had these stories that were much different and much deeper than some of the ones that you see on TV all the time.
Hmm.
I think once a story gets out, or maybe even a little bit of the history, I think everything just sort of plays off of that and don't really have the entire story. And they get tired of talking anyway. So, like anybody would, if you have to work every night of your life and answer the same questions, and the same things happen, and it's the same lights and the same K2 meters and all that. So, um, it's dang, it's tricky. It's hard. I've definitely been by myself the most of the time, just for that reason. It's not that I don't get along with people. I just find it easier to get what I need out of
Hmm.
what I'm doing without all of the other mess that goes on with it.
Right.
Up until recently, now recently I have been collabing with a lot of people. You have to sort of be careful, especially in the YouTube world. I'm sure you having a YouTube channel understand that. In fact, a lot of the podcasts that I've been on before, you don't really like to talk about your YouTube channel because people automatically discredit you as a clickbait thumbnail chasing
Hmm.
whatever, and
Right.
that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But unfortunately, a lot of times you have to utilize those tactics to get people excited about
Hmm.
what you're doing. But I digress. We won't go there. But yes, to answer your question very, very roundabout way, I do technically usually run by myself up until lately.
All right. And it takes a lot of courage to do stuff like this by yourself, especially on a consistent basis. Now it's different from, okay, I'm out with 6 or 7 people. I'm going to go in this room by myself for 15 minutes to spending the entire night by yourself, and that takes a lot of guts, and I give you props for that because I don't know if I'd be able to do a whole location just by myself. So
Yes, thank you. it's a lot of the bigger places, especially lately. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the prices to get into these places are going skyrocketing. So it does help to be with a team and people that can help you split that cost.
Right,
But there's definitely a different feeling, knowing that you do have a small group of people just on the other side of the door while you're doing an alone challenge,
right,
versus actually being alone.
right.
It's definitely, I try not to think about it, but
I
you're absolutely right. It's nerve wracking.
I guess one advantage to doing it completely by yourself is you can automatically eliminate any other people contaminating your stuff.
Yes, there's no
So,
whispering. There's no like
right,
Taco Bell farting. There's none of that going
right.
on. Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely.
and that does make it difficult when you have even just one other person in the room with you. And you're like, okay, that sounded kind of like you, but I'm not sure if that was
Yeah.
you. Do you
Yes.
remember talking? And it's just,
Yes.
but it's so you obviously you do a lot of the pay to play places. Do you ever do any residential? Like anybody reach out to you and say, hey, can you come check out what's going on at my house?
Yes. Yes. I haven't done that many since I've been here. I just actually moved up to upstate New York from Florida. I was doing a lot of that in Florida. Haven't really sunk in here, to the point where I can get my feelers out and start looking for places. However, everything up here is super old and super haunted anyway, it feels
Right.
like. So I don't think it would be an issue. But as I'm sure you know, people are either for it or they're not. So
Hmm.
it's sort of a hard subject to approach. Like, I know your house is haunted, dude. Just let me in and I'll figure it out. You don't even have to be here.
Right.
But yeah, I have done some of the residentials. We've done some, uh, semi-private ones. We've done private ones where people don't want to talk about it, and we've done ones where I've been allowed to film and put them on the show. But haven't really done much of that since I've been up here. It's been more of the actually the bigger name stuff, and collabing since I've been up here. So
All right. Now you said you're in upstate New York, so I have to ask, is the Hinsdale house on your bucket list while you're up there?
absolutely, you know it. You know it. I haven't been able to get in. Everybody else has been going. It's been
I've
booked solid.
I've
Yes.
heard some crazy shit about that place, and
Yes.
I
Yes.
have a wild
Yes.
story that we can talk about off camera that involves me, but I wasn't even there from another team that was there, and it's a wild story, and he tripped me out.
Really?
He tripped me out when he told me about it. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
uh, he doesn't really like to really talk much about it because he was kind of like I was kind of tripped out. So I had him on my show, him and his partner that he's with, and we kind of touched base on it when they were on the show, but he was kind of still didn't really want to talk much about it because he was like, I don't really understand what exactly was going on. So
Wow.
yeah, we can kind of touch base on that after the fact. So
Wow.
other than doing a lot of solo stuff, what makes you different than other investigators? Like
Oh boy.
what makes you stand out in the crowded terror room as you could call it?
That is a freaking fantastic question. Jesus. Um, Dang. Well, I think the obvious one is I'm a girl, so not that there's not girls in this field, but there tends to be not as many,
I can say it
especially.
does. I can say it does seem to be a little bit less.
Yeah,
But I think it's great that there's more and more females getting into it. So
they are. They're jumping in, and the social media platforms are both helping and hurting that cause. I think it's an excellent tool, educational tool, and getting yourself out there. But they're everybody hits that line, man, where it's just like, you have an opportunity to get noticed, and unfortunately, to do that, you have to start, faking your shit. So uh it's tough, it's hard, it's real hard. I've come to that line many times, never crossed it, but I can't lie and say I haven't thought about it, because it would be wicked easy. You know how easy it would be.
right.
um oh man, especially if you're rolling with the crew, like, oh,
Hmm.
at this timestamp freaking whisper. Anyway, but yeah, it's there are more females that are coming on. I just hope that they can find a place. It's not easy for dudes either. I don't think I'm just going with
Mm-mm.
the girl aspect, but just being solo in general. And I think that I think that coming from doing everything on my own and fighting my way through all of the usual like first hunting stuff and not wavering and building. I've got a cool community, man. I know you do too. I've been sort of lurking in yours, but you sort of build this community that
Hmm.
is just tailor made to everything that you're doing, and they're just so freaking supportive of everything. So I think that the whole style of trying to come up with different questions and uh, investigating with empathy
Hmm.
and uh, trying to get different answers, even if it doesn't mean anything. Like, yes, if you are at Gettysburg and you have a soldier that says, I died on the battlefield. Let's say
Hmm.
that's EVP. But if you're at Gettysburg and you're like, what color shirt am I wearing? And very clearly it says blue. Like
Hmm.
sometimes that sort of communication that's not exactly like talking about battle or war
Hmm.
whatever, but you're very clearly having an intelligent conversation with the spirit.
Right.
I find that way more exciting sometimes than talking about the same stuff.
Right.
um, I actually call it my Steve Irwin approach, where sometimes you just got to get excited about the little stuff to get
Hmm.
your audience excited about the bigger stuff.
Right.
Um, and it's refreshing to them, because as you know, a lot of times it's all the same stuff, and
Right.
we gotta. There's just such a much larger universe out there of this research that we're all trying to do. So
Right.
it's I guess that would be it. I don't know. I'm a little bit wacky. There's your answer.
There you go. Now, like when we investigate, we do ask some of the typical questions. How'd you die? When did you die? Stuff like that, because
Yeah.
we always like to go in blind, so we don't really know much about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of like, okay, if they tell me they died in 1955, and then find out, okay, this person that I'm talking to actually died in 1955, it's like, okay, that's cool as shit. So, but
Yes. Yes.
we also kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We use the environment we're in, and like last weekend, for instance, we was at a place that actually was originally built as horse stables.
Oh, I
and
saw that. I saw
and
that. So cool.
and but like um earlier in the evening, my wife was doing an Estes method session, and it was legit talking about horses. Um, it was giving out numbers when we were asking questions about the horses, and come to find out, when the original owner died, it was almost like they were having a horse auction, right?
Oh,
Come
shoot.
come to find out, when the original owner passed away, I guess like his family auctioned off everything, the building, the horses he had left, everything. And I was like, none of us knew that. And they're sitting there throwing out numbers. And
Oh, wow.
during that same session, it eventually said every single one of our names.
No way.
There was myself, my wife, my best friend, his girlfriend, and my sister-in-law. Um, it eventually more or less told my best friend to come up on the stage where my wife was.
No
Came
way.
came up there. He's like, "Okay, I'm up here. What do you want me to do?" And my wife comes out and she goes, "Sit down." He's like, "Okay, I'm sitting down." And it just went on and on. And then it eventually said his girlfriend's name, Ashley. And she was like, "Do you want to talk to me now?" And I think it said no or something. And then uh also my best friend's son was there, Jacob. And I said, "Okay, you've said a couple of names. It's like, can you tell, the rest of the names in the room?" First thing it said was boy. And Josh goes, "Okay, yeah, there is a boy in the room. What's his name?" Almost on cue, Jacob.
Oh my God.
I was like, I was like, and then I kind of took over. I'm like, "Okay, you've said three of our names. Can you tell us the other three names?" And our names are right on our shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it goes Kelly, which is my wife's name. And I was like,
Oh my God.
and then it eventually said my name. And then I said, "Okay, there's one lady left in the room. What is her name?" And it said sister. Now, she is my wife's sister. And so it didn't actually say her name during that instance, but it said sister.
Holy
During the
shit.
during the next session where we heard that loud bang that we put out, it actually did say her name during that session. So it eventually said every one of our names.
Wow.
And it was pretty wild, and it was way more active than I was thinking it was going to be.
Wow.
So
Those are the little gold mine spots.
right.
That's incredible. They
So
literally are dying to talk. Like that's beautiful. That's
right.
awesome.
So right before we got on, I was just kind of doing a quick scroll through your YouTube channel, and a couple of different things stood out. So first off, let's talk about Penhurst.
Oh, yes. Yes. I've got plenty of Penhurst footage that I haven't edited yet because who has time for that? Yes.
Right. Now that's one of those places that if you're an investigator that's actually in this for the love of it, that place has got to be near the top of your bucket list.
Oh my God,
You
dude.
know,
It was
it's up there on mine, and it's a place that I hope to eventually get to. So let's talk about a little bit what you guys experienced when you were there.
Oh man. Right off the bat, like it's all blocked off and gated, of course, no trespassing. So they have to lead you in. And when they came down and opened the gates and let us in, we drove. It's a quite a drive back there. Um, I was crying. Like I was legit that excited.
Right.
It was like I was fangirling, like total fangirling. You park in front of these buildings, and it's just this sprawling campus of just history and
Right.
brick and decay and oh my god, oh it was so cool. um they have one of the main buildings, of course, set up for the haunted attraction. We
Hmm.
couldn't get in that one, and that's fine, but really just looking at it's oh man, it's not much different than if it were abandoned. Like they're keeping it up, of course, but
Hmm.
it's got that feel to it. Like everything
Right.
is just falling in, and the paint is peeling, and that sort of patina you can't even pay for, and like
Hmm.
the smells and oh my god, it was amazing. It was a pretty large group. It was the first tour of the season, so that is something that I will never ever have again, I'm sure. So we're like, sweet, the spirits are going to be like, just itching to talk to us, and they were. It was, oh my god, things didn't start happening till it got dark, and we took the tour. It was our first time there. Me, my friend Shani from Shani's Unexplainable Adventures, and PLE from Past Life Explorer. We were there with Brother Frank. And Paranormal Watertown was there. I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting. We made a really sweet friend there named Radney. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's there like every weekend. The spirits absolutely love him, and interact with him. It's a very sweet story. But um, hang on, I've got a baby chicken that's screaming. Hey, stop. I live on a farm. So yes, it went dark. We split off into groups, and they basically allow you free run, but there's always somebody there, and it's understandably so because the place is so massive, and
Right.
it's very easy to get lost, and it's very easy to hurt yourself. Um, so just seeing and being in a place that I clearly know now that you have the same feelings I do about places like this. It was just, it blows your mind. Like you're not ready. You don't have enough batteries. You don't have enough food and water. You don't have enough
Right.
energy. You don't have enough time in the night. You don't have enough money to come back. Like it's just all of these feelings. Like and the thing that surprised me the most, honestly, I was prepared. Again, I'm not gifted in that sense, but I do feel an energy. I was expecting the drain. I was expecting the sadness. I was
Hmm.
expecting it's horrible stories, as most asylums are from back in the day. They start off to mean well, they end up just torturing people. But
Hmm.
um, that's what I was expecting. And what we got was an entire night of like playful,
Huh.
which really surprised everybody. In the yeah, yeah. It's hard to explain without seeing it and being there. I really hope you get to go, man. But and I'm sure not every night's the same. But as we were there, it was just playful. It was never scary.
Right.
It was never. There were a few moments of like, I got grabbed at one point, which I've only been grabbed one other time. Um, and it's about 95% confirmation I still could have like bumped into something. I haven't decided yet, but I'm 95% sure I was grabbed. Just we were doing an SD session in the infirmary at the nurses station, and there was just a whole slew of, as I'm sure you know, like it comes in waves sometimes. So it was like dead, and then all of a sudden it
Right.
was like, holy shit, what's going
Right.
on? Like, like
Right.
you don't know what to do, where to go. So it was in the middle of that that I got grabbed, but um, gosh, man, it was just it totally blew my expectations out of the water. And again, I'm sitting here on 6 hours of footage that I haven't even been able to go through. I've made some shorts from it, but you just want to do it justice.
Hmm.
And I definitely want to go back. I definitely will be back. And again, it wasn't. They're doing such a good job over there with what little bit they have, and the night we were there was freezing cold and the porta potty sucked, but that was my only complaint. Like it was awesome. It
Right.
was so cool, man. It was so cool.
Well, it's definitely up there on my list, and it's a place I hope my team can get to at some point. And so again, scrolling through your YouTube, and something else that caught my eye. It said, "I tried to contact Lizzie Borden, but got something else." Now, was this at the Lizzie Borden house, or were you somewhere else? I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was participating on YouTube. Again, I know that there's people out there cringing with the whole YouTube channel and paranormal thing, but please, well, they like you, so they probably are more open to that. But I get it. I get it with the whole YouTube thing. I understand completely. But we were doing these challenges. They were called the Para Games,
Hmm.
and it was put on by another channel, Amy from What the Paranormal, and it was just all of these people that were participating in just small paranormal challenges, just to sort of freak us out and see who could win. So this challenge was investigating and contacting Lizzie Borden and seeing if you could get any pertinent information from the case or anything like that. And it was not anywhere near the Lizzie Borden house or anything like that whatsoever. It was in a haunted location, which added to the creepy factor. And the fact that I was outside sitting near a wood pile with an axe and there was somebody screaming in the woods, that was all not planned
Wow.
and completely terrifying. There was a cat that showed up at one point. Like I went into a wormhole there, dude. That it wasn't smart. It wasn't smart to do that by myself. But
Mm.
um, yeah, no. I was using. I don't know how your people or you feel about apps like phone apps and using them to communicate with the paranormal. I'm on the fence still. I get really good responses from them, but I still won't believe that they're real.
Well,
Um,
I'll throw this out there at you. When we were doing those SS message sessions last week, where we were getting the intelligent answers about horses and getting all of our names, we were using necrophonic.
yeah, see, damn it. See, that's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Like there is some stuff that comes through that. Yes, it's a word bank. Yes, it
Hmm.
can probably technically listen to what you're saying. I usually have mine on airplane mode. Like when my spirit app came through and said Lizzie Borden's girlfriend at the time, which is whole conspiracy theory of maybe that's why the parents were going wacko and that's why she killed them. It's a whole other left hand side there, but it said her name, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, this is crazy. And then it started screaming in the forest, and I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done with this challenge. But
that's
yeah,
oh goodness. Yeah, I'd probably piss a little if I heard some screaming in the woods.
oh, I absolutely did.
Even if I knew like it was a bobcat or something, I'm like, okay, I'm done.
It was probably a fox, but yeah,
Right.
it only screamed at that time, and you're there by yourself in the dark. Yeah, that's enough for me. I
Yeah.
I don't need to figure it out. I figured it out that I'm chicken and I'm leaving. Bye.
All right. All right. Now to the location that actually connected you and I, the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. Now this is probably my absolute favorite location. We've been there twice. I've been there two or three times just to walk through during the day, just to be there. And so, how did you originally find out about the Scott County Jail?
Oh my God. Um, well, if I'm completely honest, I was bumming around for things to do in March, paranormal wise, and a lot of the places don't open. A lot of the big places don't open,
Hmm.
Brushy Mountain and all that don't
Right,
open until later.
right.
So this was March, middle of March,
Hmm.
and I'm like, what is what is this place? This could be fun. And it looks super small, which is what Chris says. Everybody says it looks small on the outside.
Hmm.
And so I went to YouTube and I started looking around. I'm like, there's not a lot of stuff on this place that I'm seeing. I'm like, this could be good or it could be terrible. So I gathered a group of friends and I made the trip down. Some people made the trip up. Some people were already in Tennessee. And I knew as soon as I pulled up that it was going to be good. And I I don't know, just the people, Miranda and Chris that run it that are
Hmm.
just amazing. The history that's there still, all of
Hmm.
the living museum, all of the care. I don't even tell you all that.
Right.
So honestly, I found it by accident, looking for bigger places. Total accident. Had no idea what it was. Booked it anyway. Didn't care. So that's how I found it. Just by total accident.
Right. So they're giving you the walkthrough. Chris is giving you the walkthrough, and you guys are in the kitchen, and she shows you a video. And
Mhm.
as everybody listened to this episode, they're probably tired of hearing me talk about this, but it's hard not to talk about because it's our most compelling piece of evidence that we've ever captured. So, what was like your initial reaction when she said, "Here, check this out. This is something that happened here."
Holy shit. Holy shit. So right off the bat, when you walk in, the first thing she tells you, and I love this about her, and I love this about the place, is that there's nothing evil here, there's nothing demonic here, so don't start your shit.
Right.
I love that because again, running with, and I've filmed with some of these YouTubers that
Hmm.
are a little bit over the top, and that's okay. I still love them as people. I love what they're doing. They still getting people excited about the paranormal. I'm fine with it. Right off the bat, there's nothing evil here, there's nothing demonic, there's nothing, don't even try. I'm like, yes, we're in the right place. So for to have that feeling, that false sense of security, and knowing damn well that this place is still super haunted, and then
Hmm.
showing that evidence of the picture flying off the freaking wall 4 feet doing the flip, and hearing you guys like freak out on camera. Oh my god, it was. We all just looked around like I thought we were safe. We were. You're always safe there. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. But and then to come to talk to find out that that was the second time that happened. Like that part was left out. That part
Yeah.
was left out. So we had this false sense of safety, right? Saw that video, and then the entire rest of the night for the rest of the entire investigation, like we're all like freaked out now. We're like ducking and like looking and checking the corners and like walking really fast by the picture so we don't get slapped by one. Like it was crazy. It was God, that video. I'm so again, thank you for letting me use that because
Of course.
oh my goodness, and I can't believe it was the second time. Like that's first time is gold, second time is diamonds, man. You nailed it.
But
Nailed it.
but see, like I said, when it happened that first time, we just caught the audio of it, and we just kind of chalked it up to. I was like, well, maybe somebody was in here during the day doing a day tour and they were messing with it, and maybe it wasn't velcroed on the wall very well, and
Right.
maybe it eventually just kind of came loose and just fell.
Right.
So, we were just like, oh, maybe that's something, maybe it wasn't. Because we didn't see it happen, we just heard it, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then when
Right.
we actually seen it, and if it wasn't for that female in the hallway saying help, we never would have went out there. We probably would have just heard it again. And that entire night leading up to that event, it was almost like the spirits there were toying with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're building it up, we're really going to get you. And because everything that happened, we were not able to capture any of it on video or audio because we would always the stuff would always happen right before we started filming when we walked into a room, or right after we walked out when we stopped filming. Um, one of the craziest things though is we were upstairs in the top cells, and we had our EDI box sitting there, and Josh, he actually is a corrections officer. I'm not. I don't can't figure out why she keeps saying that I am, but I'm not. Um, but he actually is. So he'd brought some handcuffs with him, and he'd set them down in front of the EDI box. And we had done been up there for probably 10 minutes or so, and the temperature on the EDI box read the same temperature the entire time we were up there. It was like 67.8 or something. He puts these cuffs in front of it, and he happened to notice a couple seconds later that the temp dropped to 66.6.
Oh,
And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to just jump to the automatic demonic and evil stuff. I was like, that's weird. I was like, but what are the chances of that happening when we put the cuffs down? As soon as he picked them up, the temperature went back up.
oh my God.
So I went downstairs. Chris and Miranda both were still there, and I was like, because it was their EDI. I was like, hey, has this thing ever like malfunctioned here? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, has it ever just
Sorry.
you're good.
Sorry.
I was like, has it ever read this number here? And they're like, no, it's never read the number here. I was like, it has at other places, but never here. And I was like, that's okay. I was just wondering. And they go, when did that happen? I was like, literally right before I came down.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's really wild because they're like, we're researching a story we just seen on Facebook pertaining to that number. And I
Oh,
was and I was like, no way. She goes, yeah. And she goes, and that's things that happen here. Like it tells you what's going on around you.
hmm
And we were using their Ovilus later on that night, and we kept getting random stuff like the Ovilus likes to do. But then we started some of the words it was saying. I started reading this article on the wall, and I got to notice, and I was like, it said that word, it said this word, it said that word, and it wasn't like your typical words.
Right, right,
And I'm
right.
like, I looked over at Josh. I was like, man, all these words are in this article. And he's like, well, maybe they want us to read it. So he read the entire article, and it was just like I said, everything that was happening, it was just wild. And
Wow.
and when we
No way.
and when we went back that second time, it wasn't obviously it wasn't as active, and we weren't going in with those expectations of like, okay, this
Yeah.
crazy shit's going to happen again. So we're just like, if it happens, cool. If not, that's cool too. But when we did our essay session in that hallway, it eventually came through and said both of our names. Like, okay, you remember us. And
Oh,
when I asked, I was like, who knocked the picture off the wall? It ended up giving us the name. I can't remember the name, but it gave us a name. And before we started that night, I remember Chris telling us, "Hey, play some gospel music." They seem to respond well to gospel music.
yeah.
I'm like, "All right, I'll give it a shot." So I turned on some, and probably 30 seconds in to this song, I started getting dizzy, started feeling nauseous. I'm like, man, I was like, and like I
Oh
got so
my
dizzy,
God.
I got so dizzy to the point I dropped down to my knees just to keep from falling over.
Oh shit.
And I was like, we got to turn it off, and turned it off. Waited a couple minutes, I was fine. I was like, all right, let's try it again.
Really?
Yeah, I was perfectly fine. I'd been fine all night up until that point. Turned it back on, same thing. Started getting dizzy, started getting nauseous. I was like, we gotta stop this. I was like, I don't know who's here right now, but they clearly they don't like this music, or they don't want to hear it right now. And so we turned it off and went downstairs, and we left the camera rolling upstairs that we had set up, and I think it filmed for about another 10 minutes, just that hallway, and heard a couple of little like knocks and seen a couple of questionable orbs. We're not real big in orbs, but sometimes you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And
Yeah.
but yeah, and now my mom wants to go there.
That's awesome.
She's like, I want to go to this jail you guys keep going to, and
That's awesome.
I think we're gonna try to go back maybe in October.
That's awesome.
So
That is awesome. Did you see that they just acquired that second property? That's a
I,
whole freaking town.
yep, it's about 30 minutes away in Rugby, Tennessee,
Nice.
and
So jealous.
I'm like that's awesome because when we first went there, or no, we went there the second time. I was messaging Chris. I was like, "Hey, is there anywhere like close by we could like just stay the night instead of having to drive almost 4 hours back home?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, there is, one hotel here in town, but it's kind of She
Mm.
goes, they got, a bed and breakfast about 30 minutes down the road in Rugby, Tennessee. She goes, you could try to book it. She goes, it's supposedly haunted, and it was, I think that weekend it was already booked, so we just can't remember if we drove back home or what, but I was like, man, I was like, I really want to check out Rugby, and then when I seen their announcement, I was like, oh shit, that's awesome. I was like, so
Yeah.
now that's another place I want to do,
Yeah.
and for the price of it, and you get 4 locations. And
Yes.
I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm
So
hoping they don't realize that they underpriced that.
don't tell them.
Shh, shh, shh. Just kidding. Just kidding, girls. You're doing great. Keep up the good work.
So I haven't had a chance to watch all of your video from historic Scott County, Jeff. So what's some of the stuff you guys experienced while you were there?
Oh my God. Well, I'm listening to your stories. It's interesting. Um, we got, as she of course does the tour, uh literally 5 seconds after she talks about with a whistle. Well, what I think was a whistle, of
Hmm.
course, can't really know. We were doing a lights out quiet scenario on the third floor in Big Roy's run,
Hmm.
and in that first tiny, I think she called it a segregation, some holding. I don't know. It's the smallest cell first away from Roy's. So we
Right.
had one woman in each of the cells, and then we had a very tall. He's got to be like 6'3". I don't know. He's a tall dude. He's not very intimidating, but we let him believe that he was for this lights out scenario.
Right.
And up until that point, honestly, had been pretty quiet. And we did that, lights out. He walked up and down the thing, make sure that we were in our cells, the door was shut and locked, and we were getting ready for bed. And I'm sitting there on the bed, and the loudest, it sounded like a knock. I don't know where it came from. It could have been a pipe. I don't know. It scared the bejesus out of me. I went running down the hall towards Big Roy where he was. Everybody, of course, was in a tizzy after that. And then another wave hit. So all of the REM pods started going off. All
Nice.
the cat balls started going off. Like it was a shit show. Sorry. Oh, I'm good. So yeah, it was a total shit show. It was right about midnight. And I remember Chris saying that at the top of the hour, especially, you'll hear footsteps. Now I had static cams all over the place, which was
Hmm.
awesome, but also a big mistake because it took me so long to review everything. And at that same time, I captured footsteps coming down the metal stairs. So it was just outside the kitchen, right where the picture flew,
Hmm.
looking at the metal stairs to go up and down.
Right.
And you could hear it literally sounds like boots on metal. Like there's
Nice.
no mistaking it. This is not the toilet flushing. This is
Right.
not the heat or the AC kicking on. It was the heat at that time because it was freaking freezing. Everybody was accounted for. Like you can hear each footstep, which is
Nice.
pretty cool. One of our, we weren't really a team, but we were there as a team. She sang Amazing Grace,
Hmm.
which literally brought the jail to a complete standstill. Everything went really quiet. Everybody stopped in their tracks. And my static cam in the kitchen and also pointed at Big Roy caught the. I'm also not big into orbs,
Hmm.
but as she's singing the song in real time, I'm counting them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's not doing it before or after. Like I had them up there the entire 6 or 7 hours we were there. As
Right.
she's singing, you can hear her singing. I'm counting them. They're falling from the ceiling. They're coming from the left. They're chasing each other. They're strobing. They're weaving in and out of the bars of Big Roy's cell. The cat balls are going. Like I have goosebumps right now talking about it.
Wow.
And then after she stops singing, it goes dead again. Like there's no other orbs that were captured just about the entire time. So that was pretty cool. The last and most, I still can't figure this out. So upstairs in the girls dorm
Hmm.
cell area, I'm still kicking myself for this, but I put a static cam up there. I did not use a night vision, which
Oh,
I'm never gonna forgive my. I can't. I know. I know. I'm gonna have a hard time talking about this. So this was probably like the evidence that would have made my entire career. Uh, Somehow, I don't know what it was. It was not a night vision camera. It was a regular camera pointed out the directly out the window, which was the only one that wasn't blocked.
Hmm.
There is this knocking, banging, thrashing sound, and it sort of sounds like, this is going to be so dumb. Everybody's going to be like, of course it's what it sounds like, but it sounds like somebody, like there's a locked door and they're shaking it trying to open it.
Right.
So you can hear the shaking of the whatever this is. You can hear whatever's on it. It kind of sounds like a lock bouncing off of it.
Hmm.
And then you can also hear the booming, like if you were to hit metal, like that sound, that echoey sound. So
Right.
there's three distinct sounds, super loud. It's coming right, it sounds like it's coming right from the camera. We were all downstairs confirmed because about 10 minutes earlier, we were all upstairs in the dark, sitting there in the complete darkness, and heard the loudest sigh I've ever heard. And it freaked the hell out of all of us. We all went running downstairs to use the restroom after that. So it was like a, and we were all
Wow.
like, what the fuck? So we all ran out. We were all down there. I know this for a fact. You can hear us down there, downstairs reviewing the evidence. We're not very quiet about that. And it's just this, something is trying to get in or trying to get out of something.
Wow.
And then at that exact time, you can hear all of us like erupt in like cheering because we actually caught it on camera, the sigh that had
Hmm.
just happened. And then there's an EVP, super loud, shut up.
Wow.
That came from, it wasn't that room. It sounded a little bit further down the hallway, but it was a male telling us all to shut up because we were being too loud.
Wow.
Um, I brought it to Chris. She said it could be the heater, which I guess it could be, but I didn't capture it on any of my other cameras. I had a static cam in Big Roy on the same floor. I had a static cam in the kitchen area, one floor down, and I had a static cam near the bathroom area near the drum takes, and it didn't capture any sort of banging from the heater. It was only that camera. So that sort of leads me to believe that it wasn't the heater. But again, it
Right.
wasn't a night vision camera. So nobody's ever going to freaking know. So,
Well, but you'd have to think if you had that camera running for X amount of hours and it was the heater, you would have captured it more than once.
exactly. Exactly.
So
And it was just that. It was just that time.
that's I mean that's regardless, just audio of it, that's still an awesome capture. And I'm right there in the same boat with you. I did something at a location and I forgot to turn the night vision on. And I'm set up in the hallway of this place doing an SS session. My wife and another teammate's kind of, about 10 feet behind me asking the questions. And
Yeah.
I start feeling something rubbing me on my left arm.
Oh
And,
shit.
and I call it, I was like, something's touching my arm. And then right after I say that, it started like poking me in the, like poking me. And I was like, something's poking me in the arm
Oh my
now.
God.
And like this whole side of my body just got freezing cold. And probably 45 seconds after that, on that camera, we caught probably the clearest EVP we've ever captured. And we you can hear our one teammate, he goes, "Are you Pop?" And then my wife kind of whispers, she goes, well, "Who's Pop?" And then right at the camera, it comes out and says, "That's not my name." And I'm like, and so when I'm reviewing this stuff, I'm like, I totally forgot to turn the night vision on. So all you see in this video is like the red glowing exit sign. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like sitting there thinking, if I would have turned that on, I was like, maybe I would have seen like an arm coming out of that room, like touching me on my shoulder or something. I'm like, damn it, man. So
Never fails, dude.
never
Never
does.
fails. I know. I know. I feel your pain.
But yeah, the Scott County jail, I don't think it ever disappoints. So
No.
in your opinion, you've been doing this for a whole minute. So what are your top three most haunted locations you've been to?
Scott County Jail, first and foremost. Um, and it's just, again, I don't have to explain it to you. It's just different. Like, you could go to 100 places that people claim are haunted, that just aren't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not that they're not, but that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, that's going to be number one. Number two, of course, is Penhurst.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, I think would have to be, oh my God, if I only had to pick three, I don't know. There's this little place up here that I found. It's a little abandoned church, and it's literally in the middle of a cornfield.
Mm.
But surrounding, which obviously lends to the creepiness of being in a cornfield. So you're like children of the corn. Okay, I'm gonna die.
Right.
Uh, but it's in this like stand of trees. Like you can't even see it. It just looks like a patch of trees. Come to find out, there's like this little one room church like hidden in there,
Hmm.
and it has been there for at least. And I'm a master gardener, so I can lend a little bit of credibility to this. The size of the trees, it has been there untouched from the trees that are growing around it for at least 30 years, at least. Um, Adding to that is the fact that there's calendars inside from the 70s. I know it's more than 30 years, but
Hmm.
there's, and again, that's not saying anything, but it adds to the story, right? So we have these calendars that are from the 70s still hanging on the wall, barely. Trees that have grown up around this church and are growing through it.
Mm.
And across the street is a cemetery, which adds to it as well. The weird thing is I can't find any information on this church
Mm.
at all. I can find information on the cemetery, but not on this little one room, beautiful brick place.
Huh.
Anyway, I did this experiment last year in September, I believe. I went, I clawed my way in and left I'd been there twice before. So I clawed my way in, left static cameras all around this one room, pointing at different things, and then left. I just left them there and I left. It was about 4 hours. I was going to do overnight, but I didn't want to go back I didn't want to have to go back in the nighttime. So I came back about 4 hours later, gathered my stuff. Some really creepy shit happened when I was let me tell you what, there are very few places that creep me out. This is one of them. Like this place gives me the heebies, and I don't really know why because it's such a sweet little place. Like
Right.
the preacher's altar or whatever, I don't know church terms, where he stands, the pulpit. That's it. Somebody has been in there and left little gifts from the church, like this little broken glass. There's a little piece of the Bible. There's a little like somebody's been in there playing around, and I don't care. It still creeps me the hell out. So there's one way in, one way out. You have to crawl through the door. I'm grabbing my equipment and I go to grab a K2 meter off of a old piano that clearly does not work anymore and probably hasn't for 30 years. And it spikes. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Make sure that I'm not on. I don't have anything on me. That's weird. I am holding a camera. The one camera that's on the piano has already died. It died a long time ago. So I back up and I'm like, okay, let's try that again. So I have the camera back here now and I go to reach for it. It spikes again. I'm like, okay, second time, that's really weird. So I start talking. I'm like, hey, I'm just here collecting my gear. I'm not here to disrupt you. I'm very sorry. Did you play this piano? Do you like music? Spikes again. And I'm like, all the way to red, not like a green. Like we're
Hmm.
talking all the way to red. Boom. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, that's cool. So I find the one button that's not sticky and broken and I hit it and it goes off. And I'm like, okay, well, that could be the reverberation of the keys. Those things are sensitive. If you
Hmm.
just bump them, they go off. But it keeps going off. And I'm like, okay, so I pick it up and I put it over here and it stops and I put it down. Long story short, I have this whole conversation and play this whole what I can with what keys are left with this spirit who's talking through an S box and through Spirit Talker and Necrophonics at one point, just telling me how much she loves music, how much she loves this place. And then she told me it's time to go and I'm in danger.
Oh
And then
shit.
the whole place shifted, right? So
Right.
I'm like, oh fuck. It's time to go, right?
Right.
But yeah, that whole thing in general, that even though it's not well known and it's not really, I wouldn't say it's like uber haunted, like stuff coming out of the windows, but it's definitely in my top three for
Oh.
sure.
All right. So as we kind of start to wrap this up, like what's your ultimate goal behind all of this?
Just to have fun, man. Just to get people excited about it that normally maybe wouldn't be, or maybe would be afraid of it, or maybe that do enjoy the usual ghost hunter shows, which are fine. Again, I'm not picking on anybody, but maybe find something different, in a different way to do things. So yeah, it's just keep on doing it, I guess. Keep your head down, keep it work, keep meeting awesome people like you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So what's next, Rochelle? What's next for you? What do you have coming up in the next few months? What any investigations planned and any conventions you may be attending? What's going on the rest of the year?
Oh my gosh, I had a few lined up. A few of those have fell through, and that's okay as well. I'm at Chase Manor a lot. There's a haunted place up here called the Chase Manor in Auburn, New York. Sort of my weekend haunt. I do tours there. I help out when it's needed, so I'm there a lot. Dang, I've got some stuff that I can't quite talk about yet. I've got no paracons in general. I wanted to hit a few. I know there's one in Michigan. I believe it's this week, actually. Um, but no, nothing that I can really talk about quite yet.
I got you. I got you. So if people want to follow along with you and check out your YouTube, how can people follow along with you as you go through all this paranormal journey, as we call it?
Paranormal journey, yes. So the YouTube channel is just Richelle G. I know it's super original. Everybody's got these awesome names, like you guys. But no, I just so it's like Michelle but with an R, Richelle G. And just all the usual socials. I think Facebook is the same, and Instagram is Instagram's abandoned reclamation, but it's just easier. Just go right through YouTube.
Right.
Just look it up, Richelle G. Easy to do.
All right. Well, everybody, go check out her YouTube page. She's got quite a following on there. And I think it's around what 5,000, something like that.
Yep. We're
Yep. So
approaching 5.3. Everybody's so good there. So
so
come on
that
in. We'd love to
so
have you.
that means she's got some good stuff on there if she can get that many people checking her stuff out. So go give her so go subscribe to her page, Richelle G on YouTube. Richelle, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. The
It
hour flies, man. I'm telling you what.
it
I'm
it,
sure we could go on for
it
days.
right. It did went by pretty quick. I didn't even realize we'd done been recording an hour. So, but again, everybody go check her out on her YouTube page. Subscribe to her. And again, this was a bonus episode for kind of the wrap up season 2, and I'll be starting up season 3. I'll be recording in about a month, but the end of June I'll start recording season 3, and I got some pretty rad people lined up already. So
Awesome.
be sure to tune into season 3. Keep listening to season 1 and 2. I'm approaching a year doing this. At end of July, I've been doing this a year, so I've already banged through 2 seasons. I'll be in the middle of season 3 when our anniversary comes around. So
That's
didn't
awesome.
think didn't think it would last this long. I was like, oh, I'll get a couple episodes in and nobody's going to listen to it. Then I'll just say, okay, I'm done. But people keep wanting to be on, and people keep watching and listening, so I'll just keep doing it. So
Congratulations. That's awesome.
hey, I appreciate it. And just since we are kind of wrapping this up, in about 3 weeks, we do have a big investigation coming up. Our anniversary as a team is coming up as well. At the end of June, we'll be officially a team RKB Paranormal for 3 years. And we will be investigating the United Methodist Village up in Illinois. And it's going to be the largest location us as a team has investigated. We are super excited about it. It's like a 4 or 5 story tall building. It was an old like nursing facility, and it's huge and it looks creepy, and we can't wait to do it. And at the moment, I think it's the only one we've got lined up. There's some other places we're looking into, but that one's set in stone. And like I said, season 3 of the show's coming up, and
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna have so much fun. Oh, I'm excited.
it's we're looking forward to it. Hopefully, it doesn't disappoint. I don't
I don't
think it
think it will.
will because
Mm-mm.
it's a place that's not really well known yet, so there's not a lot of stuff about it yet.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
when you can get into these places that aren't overly investigated yet, it's like they wanna really
They
talk to you. So
They do. The paranormal industry right now, paranormal tourism is what we're
hmm
calling it now, is
yep,
on fire. And there are
yep,
all of these little places coming out. Well, not little, but big.
hmm
But all of these not so well known locations coming out. And you guys are
hmm
just gonna, oh my God, that's gonna be so good.
right.
It's gonna be awesome.
All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank Richelle G, paranormal investigator. She's a good YouTuber. Her stuff isn't fake, so don't think that. She's been one of my favorite locations and tops her list of most haunted locations she's been to. So you know it's gonna